All right, well, welcome back to Exhaust Sports Auto. My name is Kevin, and we are here to check out this 2021 Mazda CX-9 Signature, fully loaded with all-wheel drive. So, without further ado, let's just get this bad boy out on the road. Now, this review isn't going to be super in-depth because I actually just recently did this year a 2020 Mazda CX-9 review, and I made two super in-depth videos talking about everything with that car regarding that vehicle. So definitely check out those two videos I did. They go into great detail, but this is definitely, I'm still going to talk about this car. I'm going to go through what's great and some of the things that they changed with this vehicle. Really, no normal car deserves to be this nice, actually. So I'll get into that in a bit. But first of all, I guess I'll start out with the exterior like I do with most of these reviews. And the exterior pretty much remains unchanged. Now for 2021, you get a little carbon package or whatever. And it's cool, I guess. It sits just one notch underneath the signature trim. It kind of gives you like a more blacked out grille and all that good stuff. And it's cool. You can opt for that if you want. And I believe if you do get the carbon package, you will get captain's chair similar to the signature in the rear. So there is that. But this is not that. This is the 2021. I guess the biggest change also for these model years is you get the new 10.25 inch infotainment screen. That's pretty much the most important thing, but I'll talk about that in the interior segment. So with all that established, let's go ahead and get this bad boy out on the road. Talk about that drive now. It's kind of damp out today, so test out some of that grip. I love the brakes in this thing. The brakes are so natural. Definitely some lean, some body roll. I remember that with the old 2020, the 2020 CX-9 I reviewed. And this 2.5 liter turbo, which is the only engine option for the CX-9, pulls extremely well. There's no issues with it. I find it to be very smooth, and you got to put premium in it, 93 octane to get the full 250 horsepower and 320 pounds-feet of torque. Now for 2020, that's actually when they updated that torque a little bit to give you that extra 10 pounds-feet. But you got to use the 93, not even 91 cuts it. So something to keep in mind if you live in California. But you can put regular in here and you'll get about 227 horsepower, about 310, I believe, pounds-feet of torque. So there is that. I definitely will put the premium in here for sure because it does help. Yeah, out on the highway, I had this thing before on doing some legitimate speeds out on the highway, and man, it was so stable, it was so smooth. Just a bit of wind noise once you get past 70 miles an hour, but even still not bad. I mean, I'm doing over 70 right now, and it is so quiet in here, and it's a pretty windy day. So, tire noise isn't ridiculous. They obviously, this one's riding on some of these Eco Pia tires, whatever you want to call it. Mazda, they made the cognizant choice of swapping out the tires, the OEM tires, to a more quieter set. So that was one of the changes that they made for 2018s and up, actually. I can't really get away from the roll with these vehicles. These are very large, 4,000-pound automobiles. So there's only so much they can do with a normal car in regards to body control like that. But I definitely don't have an issue with this. As a highway cruiser, man, this thing dominates. It is just so freaking refined. I love it. But if you want to take it a step further, you could swap in a set of Continentals, which will still be quiet and also offer you very good traction, like some extreme contacts or something like that. So, this thing still has plenty of grip. That's not an issue. The thrust in this vehicle, of course, it's not like awe-inspiring, of course. It's just a regular car at the end of the day, weighs about 4,000 pounds. But, that 320 pounds-feet of torque, it really goes a long way. And for everyday driving, it is more than enough shove to move this thing around. I just wish, similar to the Mazda 6, I wish they would give you some more of that turbo, like blow-off sounds like you got on the Mazda 6. That was great. I wish they kind of gave you that more here, but whatever. I guess this is like a flagship CX-9. I mean, they are legit trying to be like a luxury car manufacturer. So I guess they try to kind of dial that turbo sound back for the CX-9 family SUV. So, but, it's not a big deal. I guess if you want to nitpick, I just recently drove an Audi Q5, right? And here's where something like an Audi and a Mazda kind of differ, I guess. That Q5, right? It doesn't look like much on the exterior, but man, that thing, right? That had the smoothest 4-cylinder turbo I had ever experienced. None of these, even something like BMW, they're not going to match that level of smoothness. And I don't, this Mazda 4-cylinder is definitely smooth, but definitely not as, Audi Q5 smooth, but it's definitely good enough, and I appreciate it. But, that's just nitpicking. I mean, I really don't have much to complain about with this vehicle. There's not really anything about this car that's really pissing me off. Now, I will say, for this 2021, I don't know what it is, but there's no like real traction control off button. It's just like this little traction assist thing going on here. No idea if that's the actual traction control off button now, but whatever. I mean, that's really the only thing I've noticed with these cars. But even with it on, I will say, driving wise, they haven't really made a huge difference between 2021 and 2020 CX-9s, but for some reason, I think they calibrated the traction control a little bit differently for these models, because I don't feel as much torque steer coming with this particular CX-9 I'm driving right now compared to the old 2020 I had. The way they've tuned it, the way they're kind of cutting the power, because I will say Mazdas do have this tendency of torque steering, especially with their turbo models, but that's to be forgiven. This one also has the all-wheel drive. The other one also had all-wheel drive that I've driven. So all-wheel drive is definitely helping these Mazdas put down the turbo power a lot better. However, I still notice a decent amount of torque steer with the old 2020, and that's kind of been mitigated here for this generation. So if you want me to point out a difference there, I guess that's it. But I don't know if that's just a placebo effect or what. It's been a while since I drove that car. Everything from the steering, everything is so natural. Everything is just buttery smooth. I mean, again, like I mentioned at the beginning, no regular car deserves to feel this good. I mean, 15, 20 years ago when I was a kid, man, cars were not this nice. Stuff like Mazdas, Toyotas, Hondas, they were not this good and nice to either be in, to sit in, to drive, none of that stuff. So this is the perfect car if you want to mask your wealth. You know what I'm saying? You get all the, I mean, this feels no different from sitting inside that Audi Q5 that I was in. I mean, this is such a nice, high quality, premium interior space that it's near as makes no difference. It's as good as any other like Audi or German car interior. So I appreciate that. And you get all this inside of a Mazda. Nobody's going to be begging you for money when you pull up in this thing. It's not like when you drive an Audi or a BMW, they're like, oh, wow, he's doing pretty good in life. I might as well start begging now, see what I can get out of him. But, this, not so much. Your neighbors still like you. They appreciate you. This is a quality object that, for the price point, this is about 45 grand. And I admit that's a little steep, but you get everything with this. This is the signature all-wheel drive. There's nothing more you can ask for out of this thing, as we're about to see in the interior segment. It's got everything you could ask for, and everything operates great. However, I have driven a 2019 CX-9, and it was a base model. Love that. That there is so much value to be had with a base CX-9, or for about $35,000, $36,000, get a touring package or something like that, and you'll get like the electric passenger seat as well, because in the base model CX-9 you're going to get the manual seats for the passenger side, but you'll still get powered driver's side seat for the base models even, so there is that. I will say, for 2021, you still get the 10.25-inch updated screen. Even in the base trim models, you still get heated seats. I love the cloth seats that they use in the base trim CX-9. I mean, there are just so many great things going on with it, and these things come with double pane glass. It is so freaking quiet in here. It's one of the more quieter, it's like this and Hyundai. They're one of the more quieter vehicles in the class. I will say I love the Kia Telluride. That's a great option as well. So, I mean, you get all these great things even in the base trim model, and it's something to look into if you're looking at it like a CX-5 or something like that. I like the CX-5, but this is a three-row vehicle. I would still consider getting a CX-9 over a CX-5, especially if you're looking at a fully loaded CX-5 turbo and all that good stuff. I would consider looking into this because this has a lot more refinement. I feel like this is a lot quieter than the CX-5. Just fold down the third row seats and you'll have a lot more space to deal with, right? A lot more trunk space, all that good stuff. A little bit more space in the second row compared to a CX-5. So something to look into. I might lean towards getting like a touring model CX-9 with all-wheel drive over a fully loaded CX-5. But obviously if you're going to be getting like a base model CX-5, of course, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, still a phenomenal vehicle that you can get for a great price, so you can take advantage of that. It just depends on different ways that you look at it. because for 45 grand, now you're kind of entering into like entry-level luxury SUVs. Well, not entry-level, but like stuff like an RX 350. You know, it starts at about 45,000, but that's starting price. This is topped out at 45 grand, right? So an RX 350, you're not going to have any options in it, so you got to keep that in mind. And you can get this starting at $35,000. So, you know, depends on how you look at this stuff. But this, I'm going to call this a luxury car, honestly. It's a luxury car without the douchebaggery and the brand cachet associated with the luxury vehicle. You can buy this. Nobody's going to hate you when you pull up in this thing. It's like the perfect daily driver, if you will. So there is that. I'll end off with one last point before we get into the interior segment. Again, watch my other two 2020 CX-9 reviews that I did for more in-depth look at the CX-9, because it's all pretty much the same things. I will mention the Kia Telluride. The Kia Telluride is one of my most favorite three-row SUVs. I love the look. I like the swagger, all that good stuff. And I will say, with the V6, with the way it drives, I feel like it's a little bit smoother, the way it puts the power down and everything. However, I think that this is just a nicer vehicle to be in. There's a legitimate premium sensation when you sit in this thing, like a true luxury car feel. Not saying that the Telluride doesn't have it, but these two are my most favorite three-row SUVs. It's definitely between these two, and depending on the price you get, all that stuff. Especially if you're looking at a base model CX-9, I would probably go with the base model CX-9 over a base model Telluride, honestly. And you'll get 18-inch wheels. That's another thing with the base model CX-9s. This one is riding on 20-inch wheels, and these are some new 20s, and they look amazing. I like how this whole vehicle looks, and it still rides beautiful with 20-inch wheels on it. But 18s, like the 2019 I drove, it rides like butter, so something to keep in mind. So with that covers the drive for me. I'll briefly talk about this interior, because main change, of course, is the 10.25 infotainment screen. This is the exact same infotainment that you get with the new Mazda 3 and the Mazda CX-30. So that was my only gripe with the 2020 I reviewed. It got the old Mazda infotainment, which there's nothing wrong with. I actually still do like that infotainment. But this one, it just looks so much nicer. It's very similar to like a BMW iDrive system, but it has like this Audi-like clarity to it. It's just a high quality screen. I really appreciate it. So you get that here, and it's got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all that good stuff. You even have a wireless charging pad in here, but you have to be wary that you don't just throw your phone all the way inside, because then it won't charge. You kind of have to like leave it at this little indent here for it to start charging up, and it's pretty slow, like most wireless chargers are. So there is that, but at least it has it, and it's a great place to store your phone too. You know, I have a Note 10 Plus. I have a very large phone, and it fits in there no problem. So I love that. And yeah, the screen, it reacts super quick, and it's not a touch screen or anything like that. You actually have to use this knob. It does a phenomenal job. Absolutely love it. You know, I'll talk about the 6-speed automatic. I love the 6-speed automatic in these Mazdas. They are great. And this is a physical gear lever, of course, great. Everything has a nice solid feel to it, similar to a luxury car. Yeah, there's some hard touch plastics being used, but the way they implement everything is phenomenal. This is the white interior, of course. These seats are different. You got this nice diamond shredded pattern going on here. It's a very superb design. I absolutely love it. The white definitely makes a striking appearance, that's for sure. And it's very plush. You know, I've done a lot of miles in this car, and I had no issues sitting in this thing. The seats are, when you just touch them, it's more so on the firm side, but it definitely keeps your posture up. And, you know, I have no issues with these seats. They are great not only to look at, but to sit in as well. So I appreciate that. You know, the one-touch up and down windows, of course. Bose audio system, you know, this is another reason why you might want to go with like a touring premium trim or something like that. So you're going to be spending about 40 grand to get this Bose audio system, and man, it does hit hard. I love the way this thing sounds. It's a great audio system, well worth the money. But all the camera systems are great, you know. And also another thing with the base trim models, you get a lot of the safety features as standard, even blind spot monitoring. You get all that stuff, you know, lane keep assist, forward collision braking assist, all that stuff. You get that all as standard, and it can be a little bit annoying the way they beep at you and stuff like that, but you can calibrate that all within the infotainment screen, and it becomes like a great kind of passive sort of safety tech, if you will. So that's great. I'm glad that Mazda kind of gives you the option of kind of tuning that stuff. But again, watch my 2020 review for a more in-depth interior look. Now, it's a 3-row vehicle. This one in particular has like the captain's chairs because it's the signature model. And you do have heated seats back there as well for the captain's chairs. And you have these baby sunshade blocker things, and they're manually adjusted, but at least it has them. It's a great feature. Love to see that in these SUVs. I can fit in all 3 rows. No problem. I'm 5'11". Getting in and out of this thing is easy. And getting into the 3rd row is not an issue as well, and I can definitely sit back there. That's not an issue. But my recommendation is just to fold them flat. Enjoy it as a 2-row vehicle with a ton of luggage space. So that's what I'm saying. If you're looking at a CX-5, going with one of these with the not the captain's chair rear, but like the 3-row, the 3-seater in the back, fold down the 3rd row, I think that's a great option to have. And you got a spare tire back there as well when you kind of lift up the cargo hatch. So that's great. Very highly practical vehicle. It's, you know, everything, just the ergonomics, all this stuff is just so phenomenal. Love it. And I'll end off with this before I conclude this review. You know, I've been looking at a lot of these kind of Mazda or like, you know, factory videos, how these vehicles are produced, and man, you know, the care and dedication that they put into at the Japanese Mazda factories is sensational. You know, you would think they're producing like a Lexus over there. I mean, just the care and the attention to detail, the organization, it's phenomenal. So you know you're getting a quality product with this. This is just absolutely one to look into. Even if you're in the luxury car market, this is something to look into. If you already own a bunch of luxury cars, this might be a good kind of daily driver for the family, you know, good 3-row SUV type of thing, you know what I'm saying, with a nice solid interior space, great material choices, ergonomics, fit and finish, nice clicky tactile buttons like you get in an Audi. It feels like you're sitting in an Audi. So if you're coming from one of those Audi vehicles, you're going to be feeling right at home with this. So that's great. Cons to this driving experience, like I mentioned, just a bit of torque steer, but they've kind of mitigated that for this generation. This vehicle has a heads-up display. There's no physical button to turn that heads-up display off. You have 2 blank buttons right here. Yeah, there's no physical button to turn that off, so that kind of sucks. You have to go into the infotainment to turn off the heads-up display if you don't like it. When I open up the trunk space, I'm 5'11". I am literally the capping point for standing straight underneath the hatch. So that's another thing you have to keep in mind. If you're like 6 feet tall and up, you're definitely gonna be hitting your head up against that hatch. And I have the hatch put all the way up. You can kind of set it to, you know, however you want it, like how, you know, high it opens up and all that stuff. So something to look into. There's some piano black plastic being used in the interior space. These paddles, they actually do react pretty well, but they are more of a plastic paddle, but similar to what you get in an Audi, so it's not a big deal. And if you want to get max power out of this thing, you got to put the 93 octane in here. Another thing to keep in mind, especially if you live in California. So, you know, there you go. But as a whole, though, great vehicle. Definitely a crossover to put on your short list. If you're an owner, please let me know how it's held up for you. And like I mentioned multiple times, check out my 2020 reviews for a more in-depth look. But hopefully this helped. And if you have any more questions, leave them down in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching. Take care and goodbye.